Hi, how you doing? It's been a while since I've done one of these, but now I have a kind of plethora of lovely chats that I want to share with you. So it's the kind of unedited chats from my podcast, Soundtracking. It's called Soundtracking Extra, and I'm going to share with you some visual treats from conversations. I'm going to start with this one, Mr. Jared Leto, who is a very interesting character. Never quite know what you're going to get with Jared. But he was on good form. The conversation did not go where I thought it was going to go. It started off on Ikea shelving. Stick around to find out where it went. Hi, Jared.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Thanks for asking. I want to talk to you about music, please, if that's okay.
Great.
Because well, obviously you're, massively successful music artist, massively successful film creative. And I'm interested about where these worlds collide. But before we get onto that, I want to talk about this current film, House of Gucci, and Paolo, because he seems very musical. He seems to constantly have music playing in his head. He's always dancing. He's always moving. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm distracted because I have the same bookshelf as yours. Yours and yours.
I'm
Mine's
in your house.
mine's Ikea. It was my Zoom bookcase. Uh, um, but it's great minds think alike. So yeah, no, Paolo he is very musical. I mean, the Italian language is musical. It's a song. It's maybe a symphony, and the Paolo is certainly the conductor of his own kind of mad circus. And it was fun to listen to some of the Italian hits of the 80s. That was a great experience, and my Italian friends helped me out with that quite a bit. I do think I sang at one point, but I don't know if it made it into the film. And it was great to dance. I danced a few times. I don't know how many times in the film too, but he is a musical guy, and he just has a love for life, and it was a lot of fun to be in that place with him.
Yeah, there's a great moment where Gaga's character Patrizia comes to see him, and he's kind of, and they have a little dance whilst they're having a chat. And yeah, he's kind of, it's wonderful to watch. He's kind of in perpetual motion.
Yeah, that's he's one of a kind. I miss old Paolo.
Yeah, I want a spin-off. I want a Paolo spin-off. But I find it interesting because I know that you don't really watch the films that much in terms of once you've been in them, but with music and films, it's amazing to see how and where music is used within film, and how it can it very much be a character within film as well. But with this film and with other experiences, is music played on set much, and in your experience as being and over the number of films that you've worked on, has there been particular experiences where music has been a very constant with regards to the production as you're filming?
It's a dangerous game to do. It's because music is so powerful. It can really just it can just carve a hole straight to your heart. And I've had directors play music before scenes, and I used to kind of pump up my emotion with music before scenes, and I know that actors have great success with that, but I actually don't like to do that anymore, because as soon as the music stops, you can kind of feel a bit empty.
Yeah.
Like your dancing partners run off to the bathroom or something. So you do have to, for me, I have to be careful with that. But there's always, I think each character, there is a soundtrack to the character. And, in preparation, that's great. In the makeup chair, that's great. As an education, that's great, because there are different maybe not so different tempos for different generations, but there are certain, different rhythms for different people, and a different way of moving. And Paulo, his hip bones were like, they almost detached from his body. He had a little booty like nobody's business.
Ridley's made some great choices in this film with the music, which I don't know if you've seen it, but there's a really great collaboration of existing music, and be that classical pieces or something like Eurythmics' "Here Comes the Rain Again" it's so cleverly and brilliantly used, and almost kind of has a slight comedic twist at times as well. George Michael's "Faith" is in there as well. There's some, if nothing else, you should give yourself the luxury of just enjoying the music that Ridley's done for the film as well. I know it's hard to watch.
Yeah. Well, you just listed a bunch of songs I love. So that's easy to do. Yeah, I guess the nice thing is I was listening to Jeremy Irons' film, the soundtrack to The Mission, the other day, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my favorites. I love soundtracks, and that oftentimes I find myself wanting to listen to a soundtrack rather than a band. But I've heard that there's a lot of fun music in this, and I'm looking forward to it. Listen.
Tell me about some of your favorite soundtracks, and where that connection with soundtrack started. If there was a specific point for you where you really connected with the power of a soundtrack with a score.
Yeah, well, I love one of my favorites is the Passion, the Last Temptation of Christ, which I believe is Peter Gabriel and Ennio Morricone. They collaborated, but I could be wrong about that. It might just be, I know Peter Gabriel is involved with it, and it's funny because I guess Ennio did The Mission as well. I think that the soundtrack to Arrival is really beautiful. Also, but soundtracks are, it's interesting when we watch a film. If you have a piece of music and a piece of film, and they work together, there's a synergy that's just hard to beat. It's magic, when you have the visual and the audio. It can really just transport you to, a surprising place.
I know you're a big fan of I was listening to you talk about Blade Runner and how that was a really important, how important that film was to you in terms of, it was lovely to hear you. I think you said something that taught you so much about cinema, both in terms of in front of the camera and behind the camera as well. And that's a great example of a score that it really has kind of got its own kind of narrative and character within the film as well. Did you feel a connection with that score?
Yeah, when I spoke about Blade Runner a couple of times, I forgot to mention the music, because the music is used so well. They have like those kind of chimes, and the way that this abstract voice is used. It's haunting and really gives you a sense of atmosphere and scale in the film. But Blade Runner is a big one for me. It still is. I mean, I always tell people that, if conversations come up about what to watch, I'm still excited to tell people to watch Blade Runner if they haven't seen it. And the performances, the cinematography, the directing, the art direction, it's just fantastic. It's gorgeous film.
As is Denise, 2049 that you were part of. I thought he did a beautiful job with that film, and similarly Hans and Benjamin's score for that I thought was such a great compliment to the original film.
Although I never saw that film, I almost wish I wasn't in it, because then I would have watched it. But I listened to the score to it, so that was fun. And there's even a song based off, or a song for my character in the track list, and that's kind of great.
Have you ever had that experience where you've been given the a theme for a character that you're about to play, that it's been a helpful tool or a helpful journey into that character prior to filming?
You know, I made a movie called Mr. Nobody once, and I think there may have been some music or an idea of music, but there was a beautiful soundtrack by the filmmaker's brother,
Mm-hmm.
who has since passed away, but he was, you know, incredibly talented person. And the soundtrack isn't available you can't stream it.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, you can get little bits and pieces of it on YouTube, but it's, I would love it if someone would find a way to get that together. That'd be a good one.
Sure, if anybody can, you can, sir. For sure. I think that it's such an important part of filmmaking, but when you go back to Requiem for a Dream, for example, and Darren, and how he and Clint worked so amazingly together with that film as well. I mean, that music is so kind of inbred within the whole narrative of that film as well. It's an incredible relationship with the story.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about Requiem, and the music for that film was, you know, they're kind of one and the same when you think about the movie. It's hard not to think about the music. And I know there were a lot of remixes of that song. People used it in, you know, electronic music and all kinds of things, but that's Clint Mansell and the Cronus Quartet, I believe. But yeah, powerful. And like I said before, when you have the right music with the right film, it's transformative.
When you are, you have these two worlds, is there a point for you where your world of music and your world of film collide?
You know, they have. When I work as a documentary filmmaker, if I'm editing, they can collide. I mean, you know, music is essential, like we spoke about already, but they certainly can. And just being, you know, being an artist, a creative person, a crafts person, you know, anything you do that challenges you, you learn from, and you know, if you're failing often, you're learning even more, and you apply one to the other, and it's basically using creativity to solve problems. So there's a common ground there. The process is a bit different. It's kind of like, you know, making a stew and you know, putting together a bookshelf from Ikea. They're different things, but you're still using your brain and your heart. Maybe not your heart if it's the bookshelf, but
Yeah.
using your will and your brains to kind of cobble something together.
It's when you think about the visuals though for 30 Seconds to Mars, they're always incredibly cinematic, you know, whether it's, you know, looking at that video for Kings and Queens where you shut down parts of LA to kind of film that and stuff. They've got this incredible cinematic quality. And I mean, how involved are you in that process of it, you know, in terms of that kind of that artistic side to it?
Well, too involved, probably. That's what it took me like months and months just to make a single video, and they would end up to be, you know, 10 minutes long, and the label would be, you know, screaming at me. But you know, that's been fun to kind of to work in the opposite way, is make, I mean, in a way, the album is the film and the video is the soundtrack. And it's interesting to work that way. And even on our last album, you know, we made an entire documentary based on the album. We had, I believe it was 92 crews or something like that, shooting in every state in the country on a single day. So we made a film called A Day in the Life of America, and we captured a day in the life of America on the 4th of July in a really tumultuous time, and made this, you know, feature-length documentary. And it was a really exciting experiment. But again, it was almost, you know, it was making the film in response to the music.
Is that something that appeals to you, to, you know, the steps that you take towards, you know, documentaries and that side of it, being involved in the sort of visual creative with your band, of taking that step into feature film directing yourself?
Well, I started off in film school studying to be a director. And, you know, I direct when I have a real passion to tell a story or when it's a necessity. You know, if I can't find someone that is going to probably, sometimes you just feel like you have to do it yourself because no one's dumb enough to work as hard as you on it. I'll just kind of get drafted. But you know, I've been doing our videos for, my God, 100 years now. But on the last album, I actually had Mark Romanek, who's made some of the best videos of all time. He made a video for us for a song called Rescue Me, and it was just so simple and so beautiful. It was such a relief to be able to pass it off to someone like that. And I think he finished it in about a week, so he really embarrassed me.
What's next? I mean, we see so many things in terms of whether it be, you know, working with Darren again on Adrift or Tron 3 with Garth Davis. We don't know if any of this is true. More Joker, 30 Seconds to Mars. What is next for you?
Probably retirement at this point.
Oh, come on.
You know, there's a lot happening and a lot of exciting things. You know, like I've written well over 100 songs, and we wrote a lot. At the beginning of COVID, we just dug in and started writing. And my brother and I have, you know, we put a collaboration out with a guy named Millennium. So there's a song floating around out there called Wouldn't Change a Thing, which was really fun. We'd never done that before. And we honestly, we have an entire album done. We may have 3 albums done right now. It's just about when to put it out, you know, and then to get back on the road. It's inevitable at some point.
Great. Well, listen, thank you for your time today. It's always a pleasure to see you, and congratulations on the House of Gucci and Paolo. As I say, I really hope there's a spin-off film about him because his story, I think, is fascinating in itself. It's great. Thank you, Jared.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Mr. Jared Leto. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more from this channel, Soundtrack and Extra with me, Edith Bowman. The addition to my podcast, which if you haven't already subscribed, you should subscribe to that too. But in the meantime, make sure you subscribe to this to be notified when a new episode drops, and there are more on the way.